If you have a PAYE bill of over £3 million, then you pay into the Growth and Skills Levy, or what was formerly known as the Apprenticeship Levy. And this money automatically goes into your Apprenticeship Service account, or again, what was formerly known as your DAS or Digital Apprenticeship Service account. This money is automatically topped up by government, and you can use it to pay for your apprenticeship delivery directly or your endpoint assessments. But there's a catch. The funding expires now after 12 months. So if you don't use it, you lose it. Most businesses fall into the same trap when it comes to apprentices and treat them like an emergency hire without that forward planning. One apprentice here, one there, but with no real plan behind it. This is how you end up with inconsistent intakes, unclear progression, mentors being stretched too thin, and ultimately a program that doesn't actually add value to your business or the next generation you're recruiting. In this video, I'm going to give you a simple framework that allows you to create an apprenticeship program that brings in predictable intakes, that creates clear pathways and allows you to actually maximise the levy funds that you've got available. Step one, and before you even start looking at apprenticeship standards, you need to take a look at your current training and workforce needs. Most businesses do this the wrong way around because they pick an existing apprenticeship standard through what's available, but they haven't actually thought or mapped out how that really integrates within their current business setup. Well, this means that apprenticeship programs become messy, irrelevant, and hard to deliver. Inside levy paying organisations, the best way to think about an apprenticeship programme is an internal apprenticeship academy. An academy can bring in new apprentices, but also upskill existing staff. And for this video, we're going to focus on bringing in that new talent. But we have actually created a whole video on how to upskill with apprenticeships, and you can watch it here. So, in a nutshell, the starting point isn't the standard. The starting point is identifying what skills gap you need to close. Instead of starting with the standard, run this quick checklist. Which roles are we struggling to recruit for? Which roles have a high churn? Which roles have a retirement risk? Which skills are changing fast in our sector? From there, pick 2 to 4 roles that apprenticeships should feed into. For example, that may be a service technician pathway, a body repair pathway, or a service advisor or parts pathway. When you start with job roles, you're able to create a pathway that's relevant for your business, rather than having the standard dictate the shape of your program or academy. And this brings us to step 2, build pathways so that apprentices don't get stuck. A pathway is simply 3 things: where they started, what they become as they develop the knowledge, skills and behaviours of that apprenticeship, and what happens thereafter once they finish. You want this mapped out right from the start. And this is not just so your managers can see what that journey looks like, but so the apprentice has vision, confidence and faith that this apprenticeship is actually going to take them somewhere. Because without a pathway, 2 things can happen. The apprentice finishes, they pass their EPA and then they leave, or the apprentice finishes, passes EPA, but actually they just stagnate in that same role. Either way, this is not a successful return on investment or a benefit to the business. The simplest way to build a pathway is to create a 4-step ladder for each role. So entry level, 0 to 3 months. What do they need to fully understand about your business, about their apprenticeship, and what do they need to get their head around so that they can be set up for success? Competent. So this is in the first 12 months. So what tasks or responsibilities can they take ownership of and complete consistently, both safely, but also to the standards that both you and they need to be working at? Productive. So from 12 to 24 months. How can we grow that capability so they can not only take more, but also contribute more to the wider workforce? Progression, and this is post-completion. What roles or responsibilities can they then move on to? When you fill out these 4 categories, 2 things can happen. You can clearly explain the promise you're making to the apprentice, and then you can properly plan as a manager because you know what you're building towards. Pathways are also one of the most simplest ways to improve retention, because when someone can see progression, they tend not to leave. If you're a levy payer in the automotive industry and you want an apprenticeship program that actually delivers results, well, Apprenticeship Central can help you. We build apprenticeship programs from end to end, starting with mapping out standards, training providers and setup, through to recruiting brilliant apprentices. Then it's a case of providing the frameworks and the structure to actually onboard and support those apprentices once they're in place. But things like safeguarding, pastoral care, wellbeing support, making sure that you have everything covered so that you can run a successful program. With the right structures in place, we've seen retention rates over 7 times the industry average. If you'd like to know what this looks like for your business, click the link in the description and book a discovery call. Now, for levy paying organisations that genuinely want to build a successful apprenticeship programme, the question we often get asked is, how many apprentices should I take? And that's why step 3 is intake. The risk is when this becomes a guess or isn't properly planned out, 2 things can happen. Firstly, you could overwhelm the existing business, because let's face it, taking on an apprentice requires buy-in, structure, support and time from your existing team, or you underinvest and actually haven't necessarily got the numbers to really build that pipeline of future talent that's going to actually tackle your skill shortages. The way we approach this is simple. First, we look at the business needs, any vacancies you're expecting, the growth you're hoping to see, and any expected churn rate from skills that you already have. From there, we sense check that against your capacity. From a mentor perspective, we look at who's actually got the skills needed to be a brilliant mentor. So not just technically who's good at their job, but who's got the patience, the communication and the empathy to properly support a new apprentice in place. We look at operational rhythm and busy seasons, and we also consider the training delivery route that's going to work for your specific business. This is often the point that many levy-paying organisations realise that instead of bringing on apprentices one by one, it's time to build cohorts. A cohort builds rhythm for your program. You have one clear intake period, and this gives you one lot of onboarding and a structured support for the program. Apprentices that onboard together, well, they start to build peer-to-peer relationships. They buddy up, they support each other. There's potentially that competitiveness, but ultimately they feel part of a team and they also feel part of your wider business. We saw this with a national franchise of over 200 sites across the UK. Previously, they were running apprenticeships in silos at local levels, but instead we took the approach of bringing everyone together and building cohorts. This saw the creation of the class of 2025, which onboarded over 50 apprentices throughout their network. They brought them together for an employer launch, immersed them in the brand, exposed them to the network, and saw 100% successful starts. Employers who had originally planned to take on just 1 or 2 apprentices actually had the confidence, the support and the structure to take on 4, 5 and even 6 apprentices at one time because of the program that was in place. So when you're planning an apprenticeship program or academy, think in cohorts, think in batches. Build something that's scalable and repeatable rather than just taking 1 or 2 and having an ad hoc approach to apprenticeship starts. Step 4 is the most critical element when it comes to the success of your apprenticeship program, and this is how you manage your mentors. Mentors should not be an afterthought. If anything, they should be treated as part of the program themselves. Just like an apprentice, a mentor needs protected time, clear expectations and structured support. If time isn't protected, this is when we see frustration grow from the mentor and the apprentice. Communication starts to fail. Patience breaks down, and neither party are actually fully committed to working with each other to ensure successful delivery. A common mistake that we see time and time again is when a mentor is just left to get on with it, manage things themselves. The intention is there, but the structure isn't. So actually this leads to inconsistency and a reduction in team buy-in. What we often hear is, we had an apprentice, it didn't work out and we're not doing this again. But actually when we start to uncover things, we often always see that it's actually a lack of structure and understanding within the current business as to why that apprenticeship failed. It's also important to remember that being technically brilliant at your job doesn't make you a good mentor. A technician might not have been trained or have the skill set to give proper feedback, receive feedback, coach or build confidence in a young person or an apprentice. Every apprentice should have a named mentor. There should be regular touch points, even if it's just 15 minutes, but 15 really powerful and effective minutes. Off-the-job learning should be planned into the rota, and the mentor should actively protect that time for the apprentice. And finally, there should be a clear 30, 60 and 90-day roadmap so that the apprentice and the mentor are clear of expectations and know where things should be headed. When mentors are supported properly, communication improves, reviews become more meaningful, and the whole program becomes more scalable and more successful. Step 5 is to set up a levy spend calendar. As we said earlier, your levy goes back to government if it's not used, so it's vital that you're setting up something to manage, monitor and utilise your levy funds before the 12 months. A levy calendar means mapping your funds with your expiry dates and aligning this to your delivery plans. Create a 12-month view that covers your current levy balance, what's expiring in 3, 6 and 12 months time, planned apprenticeship starts per month and planned progression starts such as upskilling and using higher level apprenticeships for existing staff members. When you do this properly, your levy pot stops becoming something you react to and instead becomes a strategic investment tool for your business. You plan your starts in advance, you coordinate your recruitment and your training needs early, and you start using your levy pot as a workforce development tool rather than just watching it quietly expire. Finally, Step 6 is measuring. Most businesses look at starts and endpoint assessment results, but this doesn't tell us the whole story. You can have plenty of starts, but still be dealing with skills gaps, dropouts, or wasted levy spend. The real success of an apprenticeship programme is what happens in the middle. How the apprentices progress in, how quickly they become productive, and whether they stay and become a meaningful part of your team. We recommend tracking a small but meaningful set of metrics. Levy paid versus spent versus expired, completion rates, retention at 6 and 12 months after completion, time to productivity by role, and mental load and capacity. If you review these monthly, you'll identify issues early, protect your levy spend, and be able to improve your apprenticeship programme quarter by quarter. So to recap, if you're a levy payer, your apprenticeship programme blueprint looks like this. 1. Plan roles first. 2. Build clear progression pathways. 3. Set intake numbers based on business needs and real capacity. 4. Protect mental time properly. 5. Run a levy spend calendar. And 6. Measure completions, retention, and productivity. This is how you move from apprenticeships becoming occasional hires to actually creating a talent pipeline. And if you want a full end-to-end guide on exactly how apprenticeships work, then click the video on the screen and make this your next watch.